After watching the first two episodes of Love Island All Stars, I realized something pretty quickly. These people aren't necessarily bad at dating, they're just dating with profile, which means they're dating while being watched, they're dating with many followers, they're dating with many DMs. So they seem to have access, options, and an audience. And honestly, this kind of straight up mirrors modern dating. More fame doesn't make dating easier. It just makes choosing harder. Welcome to Culture Alchemy, where we do a deep dive into film, TV, music, and the stories and trends lighting up the group chat. We'll discuss what it means, why it matters, and how it shapes us. I'm Antoinette. Each week, we've got pop culture's hottest takes served fresh. We're turning pop culture into pure gold. This is Culture Alchemy. And what immediately stands out about All Stars is that nobody is neutral. These aren't fresh faces. These are people that are coming in with reputations from the past seasons, exes, and online histories. So they're not just meeting each other, they're actually meeting what they already know about each other. And that changes everything. Dating used to start with curiosity, and now it starts often with assumptions. And outside the villa, we all do this too, like we're checking profiles, we're reading captions, we're seeing who someone used to date, we're forming narratives before we ever sit across from them. So these islanders aren't dating people, they're dating reputations. So first, a bit of a warning here. I am going to be spoiling episodes 1 and 2. So if you haven't watched them and you would like to go in with fresh eyes, now is your time to exit stage right, but not before you like and subscribe to this channel so that you'll know when the next video drops. But this is your warning. I am going to talk about episodes 1 and 2 very loosely here, my impressions and what I'm seeing in the first episode in particular. So we are back in South Africa in a beautiful villa. Ian Sterling, thank God, is back. He is the man. And then, of course, Maya Jama is also back as hostess. And my first impressions so far, okay. So I've taken a lot of notes here. Let's talk about Jess, who talks about her 6-week relationship ending by text. And for me, the issue isn't just the breakup, it's the method. So ending a relationship by text is conflict avoidance in digital disguise. It's one of the worst things you could ever do. And I think modern dating has really blurred boundaries so much that hard conversations get outsourced to screens. Convenience has replaced courage in modern dating. Okay, then we meet Belle. And I gotta say, I didn't actually like her when I first saw the intro package. She kind of came off actually kind of a little bit more of like player energy, if that could even be said. But, as we see more of her in the show, she might actually be my favorite. Because the second she speaks, you notice she's observant, she's emotionally articulate, curious. She's really grounded in a way that stands out. Then there's Leanne. This sister is stunning. In that sort of contoured, unbelievable sort of way, which is kind of the IG beauty standard right now. And she also gives one of the realest lines I probably ever heard, which is, "These streets are treacherous." That's not bitterness. That's dating fatigue. That's real. Then there's Millie. She's coming in hot off of a 4-year relationship that just ended about, if I'm not mistaken, 4 or 5 months ago. So I do question whether or not she's actually in a position to date and fall in love. But, she's here, she says, to snog. I love making out too, so I totally get it. She just wants to have fun. And that makes sense. But at the same time, she's also saying, I'm here to find my husband. So I don't really understand, what she's doing. What she's saying, what she's doing don't seem aligned to me, but it's still early days. And it's like, I think, 24 hours literally in the villa. So I think she's just checking people out and she's going to take things at the pace that allows her to enjoy the process, right? As opposed to being worried about the outcome. So we'll see what happens, but it does kind of speak to this kind of modern day ambivalence that I see people dating with, where they say they want one thing, and then they're going about dating in a way that seems totally counter to the thing they actually want. But anyway, we're going to move on now to Shaq. Now, I actually think Shaq's a good-looking guy, but he is coming in here branding himself as a relationship guy. But I see there were some early cracks in his narrative. In his intro package, when he said that his ex broke up with him because he called another woman beautiful, I mean, right off the bat, I took a note immediately. I was like, okay, What else? What else did you did you do? Because there's no way that that's all that happened. And as it turns out, we do find out later on through conversation with Belle that Shaq got a lap dance at a strip club. Now, actually, I don't think that's a big deal. Personally, I also still find that to be, I don't know. It's kind of, I'm not sure that I personally would care if, in fact, I were dating someone who I trusted and I was dating them for a while. But we saw this on Love Is Blind, the most recent season with Anton and Ali, where her bottom line was like, no, I don't want to date somebody who like frequents a strip club. I think I would agree. Like, if you frequent them, that might be more of an issue. But if you went to one, like your buddy's getting married and you had a bachelor party, or you went to one, I don't know. Personally, I still feel like there might be more to that story, but I do know there are some women who have a hard and fast line, partners in general, actually, who have a hard and fast line on what's okay and what's not okay outside of the relationship. And for some people, that's a bridge too far. So fair enough. But yeah, this will be interesting because if he is a relationship guy and he's looking for a relationship, and choose to believe that he is, this whole conversation about what he's saying and how he behaves, it's going to set him up as someone whose values may not align with his behavior. But we'll see. It's still early on, and initially, I like the conversations he's having with people. He doesn't seem to have locked in on any kind of connection other than Belle right now. But episode 2, we do see him sort of maybe indicating that he has some interest in Helena. So let's see what happens here. All right. Now we're going to go back to our gals here. So Whitney and Leanne, they actually know Shaq's ex, which is interesting now because it speaks to what I was saying before about the idea of we're dating everybody's reputation. Now, if you are watching, ladies, would you date your friend's ex? Because I actually think this might be something where I would probably draw the same line as these two girls. Like, he could be amazing, but I wouldn't go there. It's just something I wouldn't do. But I'd be curious to know, would you date a friend's ex? Are you down for that? I'd love to know. Let me know. And I'll be very curious to know the gender breakdown on that. If there are men out there who say, nope, it's part of the bro code versus women saying it's part of the girl code. These islanders don't really get to show up fresh. Their past is following them into the villa, who they dated, how it ended, what people think they're like. We're watching what happens when the profile replaces presence. And this is something I feel really strongly about. And I don't know, I might be in the minority on this, but I actually prefer going into dates cold because I feel like online presence is a curation. It's a sales job. So the only way I'm going to really know who you are is if I spend time with you, especially if I see you under stress. That tells me way more than aesthetics, captions, or vibes are going to tell me at the outset. But in this villa and in modern dating, people are being judged before they're actually being experienced. And I think knowing too much about someone right away can actually block real intimacy on this show. Okay, so now moving on to episode 2 here. Okay, so this is where the abundance problem becomes really obvious to me. Scotty is the clearest example. Okay, I'm going to put my bias out here right off the bat. I do not like Scotty. I actually cringed when I saw him come on the screen. I was like, not this guy again. I am not a fan. I've seen him obviously he's a reality TV vet. He's been on Love Island a few times, I think in the UK. He's been on Love Island USA, which is where I got to know him as a bombshell when he came in on season 5. Did not like him, did not like how he treated the women. He kind of, his eye was constantly wandering. He could never make a choice. I don't like that. And then, of course, we saw him on Perfect Match most recently as well, where he kind of jerked around Rachel Recchia of The Bachelor franchise, who was going through a lot and I think was in a very vulnerable place. So I've seen him in more than one situation where he comes in out the gate. He knows he's making television and he knows how to make good TV. And he kind of comes in hot and he usually goes after somebody's girl and usually will try to malign that person. And he did the same thing here, right? So we saw right off the bat, he took an immediate disliking to Sean, who happens at the time anyways to be paired with Belle. And we find out later on that his whole reason for doing that is because he likes Belle. He came in, he fancies Belle, and he likes Leanne, and he went after the guys. He tried to kind of almost discredit them, put some disrespect on their name immediately. I'm not saying that there's a right or wrong necessarily to go about this particular dating show, but there's just something about the way he moves that I just find really distasteful. I'm not I'm not a fan. I think he has well, we'll see what happens with him, but I think he's there for the applause. So he keeps saying, like, I had a good chat with Belle. I had a good chat with Leanne. And I'm sure he has. Like, he's probably had a lot of good chats with a lot of people. But the thing is, the good chat is not necessarily indicative of compatibility. A good chat is not intentionality. Good chat is like a baseline social skill. I actually need the banter. I can't actually develop attraction for someone unless I have the banter. But Leanne said something about respect and honesty being qualities she wants in her partner, and I thought, wow, that's a low hanging fruit there, girl. That's bare minimum. But I hear this so often in the dating scene, and I've also heard it from men and women equally. And I think, wow, it says a lot about what's going on in the scene right now. These things that I feel are the basic building blocks of any kind of relationship are now becoming nice to haves, or even frivolous things to ask for, which is wild to me. But anywho, um, yeah, I think this conversation between Leanne and Scotty was really interesting. Like, of course, Leanne and Scotty, they're vibing, there's some chemistry there. He's obviously into her, she's attracted to him, and we'll see what happens. But Scotty, my man, he is someone who likes to enjoy his options without choosing. So I can't wait to see what happens once they have to couple up. Then we're going to really see, and I'm calling it now. I think this is going to be a very messy season. Because I also think with All Stars, they're very used to being chosen. They're very used to the attention. They're very used to the applause. They're very used to the likes. And I think if they're not immediately being chosen, I think we're going to start to see, we're going to start to see some drama. You know, when, when you're in a candy store and you have a sweet tooth, I don't know. Is it a reasonable thing to ask any of these people to choose? We'll see. But with Scotty, it'll be really interesting to see what he does in this environment, like what he does in the candy store. Because in my mind, abundance without discernment creates messiness. Now, Belle, meanwhile, continues to stand out for me. She's so switched on and seems to have a lot of emotional intelligence. She notices intensity in the conversations. She jokes about the trauma bonding that's happening. She's very aware. She literally says, I hope I don't look foolish in a week when she's talking to some of the people that are now, pursuing her. And she's a hot commodity in this villa. That awareness is really striking to me. And I think she's somebody that can enjoy the process and looks like she's going to be, as I said, having her pick of multiple men here, but without losing herself in the process. So again, Bella's one I want to keep looking out for. I'm interested to see how her journey progresses. Okay, so now we're going to talk about my girl Whitney, who is another castmate that I really like. She's going to have an interesting journey. I actually took notes on everybody here, but I don't recall her age. So I'm going to clock her in her early to mid 20s. And I think she's going to have a very interesting journey. There's usually one or two girls in the villa, often Black girls, okay, that are in the villa who have this type of narrative where they're not really clicking with anybody, or maybe they're perceived as not being as open. Okay, so we're going to talk. Let's break this all down. So early on, and I sort of saw this coming for Whitney in her package, but early on I noticed she wasn't being chosen, and I couldn't quite articulate why. And then she articulated it herself for me. So she says she's a slow burner. She's not lovey-dovey right away. And if she likes you, she'll tease you. So she's kind of almost going to neg you like a guy. That's her flirting language. She flirts intellectually, playfully, indirectly. Okay. And I understand that because I also flirt like that too. But this villa rewards fast, physical, and obvious signals. And I think that's why she does get herself into a little bit of like a almost desire cul-de-sac where the other men are concerned. So her attraction gets misread as neutrality or maybe even disinterest. Right now, I think she is coupled up with Jack, our Dublin boy, and he's not really sure if she likes him, right? Now, this is, I think, because of the way that she's presenting herself in a villa where the other girls are coming on quite strong, or maybe have a different flirt style, right? They're more overt in their flirting. So her attraction to Jack, which we find out later on is there. Um, he's not really seeing it and it's being kind of misread. And I feel for her because I do think that on these shows, this type of personality, and Olandria from Love Island, right? She kind of fit this mold as well, too. I think she was a little slower to build the attraction. She's more quiet. And I think that sometimes that just doesn't translate well into the villa. I mean, this is a really challenging environment for anybody, I think. And unfortunately, not all attraction performs loudly. And that's not a flaw. So what I really respected about Whitney is that she doesn't contort herself to something that she thinks will be more palatable to the man, right? She says, I'm into you. I'm just built differently. And that's totally relatable. But I do think, unfortunately, it does make her a little bit less appealing to the men in the house because she's a beautiful girl. I don't think that's the issue. I think it's that the men are not reading a kind of a sexual sort of like come hither energy where some of the other women are giving that and giving that all day, every day. So it's a tricky thing, but I understand her where she's coming from. And I think hopefully, fingers crossed, there'll be some bombshell coming in there that she's going to vibe with energetically. That's what I hope. That's what I want for my girl Whitney right now. Okay, so Belle and Leanne, they talk about loving depth in their conversations. They're talking about trauma, shadow work, like real conversations. And this is kind of a theory that I have, especially when it comes to dating and relating in general. I've always felt, and maybe I don't know if this is original. If it is, okay, I'm copywriting it right now. Scuba divers and snorkelers. There are some people that are deeper divers and some people that like to skim the surface. And if you are a scuba diver, I feel like it will potentially be very hard to get your needs met by a snorkeler. If you're someone that wants to keep it light, surface, nothing wrong with that. But a scuba diver may be a lot for you as well. And I think this is what they're kind of talking about. They're talking about the level of depth that they need in their relationships, in the conversation. And these two girls, not surprisingly, are the ones that are being pursued heavily by the men because I think they bring that level of not surprisingly, these two girls are being pursued pretty heavily by the men because they're not just beauty, but they also bring brains. They bring the emotional intelligence. I think their conversations are also very natural. And I think that they know how to stay present and also create attraction when they're talking to the men. They're very good at flirting, both these girls. And at the same time, I think both these girls have enough self-confidence and self-worth that they're also not going to settle, right? If the conversation is not going the way they like it, they're not afraid to ask questions that are deeper. Belle more so than Leanne, but I think Leanne, to her credit, I do think she's listening, she's watching. We're probably going to see a lot more of her because it looks like her and Belle are both interested in Scotty.
What are you feeling about Scott?
Yeah, he's nice.
Yeah.
It's so early days, isn't it? Like, no one's really got, like, to the deep chats yet.
Yeah.
How do you feel about him?
No, I'm the same. But I can't wait to get to, like, the deep, I don't know.
So I already know that is going to be drama later on. We do see in this episode as well, Shaq talking with Helena. This is the initial kind of spark is happening here. And she prefers things light, fun, easy. She wants, a more playful energy in the relationship. And, relationships have levels. I think even those of us who like depth, we want to laugh and have a good time with our partner as well. But in some cases, some people just know that that's what they want. They just want it to be light. They don't want to go into the depths, right? They want it to be fun, easy. And honestly, in modern dating, I think the same thing happens too. There's no problem with either or. I think the problem is when you have a mismatch, especially if you don't communicate that mismatch and one or both partners is not willing to meet you halfway. It could just be easier to just find someone, who's on the same frequency and just go there. So I think this is one of the things that I'm noticing on the show. And this is one of the things that I'm also noticing in modern dating in general is that fun has become the first commitment. Not really, where's this going? Just, do I want to see this person again? Right? And in 2026 dating culture, yeah, I'd see him again. I'd see her again. That's a big promise. So when I zoom out, here's what I think episodes 1 and 2 are really showing us. So the problems we experience in everyday dating, like the choice paralysis, mixed signals, the ambiguity, especially a lot of the online ambiguity. They're just amplified here for these daters because of their fame. So the options create hesitation. Hesitation is creating misalignment, right? Because if one person's like, I'm all in, I want a relationship, I want to be in a relationship, and the other person's like, hey, I just got out of a 5-year thing, I just want to take it easy, I just want to have fun, but they're not communicating that, and they're trying to, based on probably just physical attraction, connect. It's not going to work, right? So Love Island All Stars so far really isn't about romance. It's about what's happening when everyone is dating with receipts. So fame is presenting more options for these people. And more options doesn't generally bring clarity. And we know this because of the paradox of choice, right? And analysis paralysis. These things often work in tandem. And I think that for these daters in this experiment where they know other people are coming in, they always have one foot out the door, which makes it difficult to connect. So when it comes to Love Island All Stars, I think mo fame, mo problems. So that's my read on episodes 1 and 2. And I want to know, what are your thoughts? Do you think more options makes dating easier or harder? And how do you feel about ending relationships by text? I want to know all of that. How do you feel generally about online behavior, like your partner's online social behavior? Where do you draw the line? And I'd love to know which islanders you're connecting with. Who are your favorites in the villa this season? Let me know at culture_alchemy on the IG, or of course, drop me a comment wherever you happen to be listening or watching this podcast. Okay, we're playing Kiss and Tell in the next episode. It's about to get spicy. So be sure to like and also subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button. It's just right there. Just hit it. And that way you'll be sure to know when I drop my next video on Love Island All Stars. I want to thank you for joining me. And as always, alchemists, stay curious.